The Houston Rockets just shut down any and all trade conversation in regards to Ja Morant coming to the Houston Rockets. Multiple insiders are also saying the same thing about Giannis Antetokounmpo, but have a different take on things. And Jayson Tatum is really working his way back to try to make a return this season. Will he be successful? We'll talk about it all and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for daily hoops news with real analysis. And I'm your host here, Haize. Let's go ahead and get into it, man. So, first up, the Houston Rockets have shut down any and all rumors in regards to them being interested in Ja Morant. Reportedly, they have zero interest in Ja Morant. This one comes from The Athletic, that the Rockets are sticking to their strategy of adding to their young core without removing from it. Even as the team has emerged as a contender, Houston isn't interested in making moves that will shortcut the development process for their young player. And the Rockets aren't interested in mortgaging their long-term future in win-now moves. So it seems like that mindset is going to keep them from pursuing a player like Ja Morant. And, you know, when they lost Fred VanVleet to that injury, a lot of people thought that they would move, myself included, make a move eventually for a point guard. And the Houston Rockets, for what it's worth, always said that they wanted to evaluate, right? I think it was originally, don't get me the line, but I think the original quote was they were going to evaluate until January where they were with their playmaking before they made a decision. And for what it's worth, it's worked out. They're 15-6 on the season. A guy like Reed Shepherd, who I had been saying for a long time, looked like not even an NBA caliber player. He looks really good. He's averaging 13 points for this team, 3 assists, 1.6 steals as well. Turnovers are low. Now, they're not using him as a traditional point guard, right? And that's not what Reed Shepherd is. That's never what he was going to be, right? But they are getting it done playmaking-wise by committee, and that's the way that it's working out right now. And because they have Alperen Sengun, who is leading them in assists at 7.1, we've talked a lot about how, especially when you don't have like a traditional point guard, right? And you do have more of a shooter or a cutter or whatever it is, being able to operate from the inside out with your playmaking is a thing that opens up the floor for everybody. That's why you're seeing players like Alperen Sengun have the season that he is. Amin Thompson averaging 17 points per game, right? Kevin Durant do what he's capable of doing. This team is a legit contender. And adding a player like Ja Morant to that could really have thrown off the balance there, not just because of the narrative and, you know, stuff that's going on with Ja, you know, personality-wise and stuff like that, but like you have a young core here. Reed Shepherd was a lottery pick last year. Like, let's be clear, right? This is a guy that was picked in the top 3, number 3 overall pick. So, you know, wanting to evaluate what you can be with him makes some sense. Now, you know, he started 4 games for them. That's cool. He's not going to be a permanent starter, it looks like, for them, but this is a guy that's been playing pretty damn well for them. You look at what he did in the month of November. He averaged 15 points per game on 52% shooting from the field, 47% shooting from 3 as well. And like I said, the playmaking is not there. He's not a traditional point guard, but he's there and able to stretch the floor. And so when you have Sengun playing the way that he is, you know, you don't really need that traditional playmaker, and you have enough to do it by committee. And it seems like that's what the Houston Rockets are doubling down on right now, right? And because, you know, they gave up, you know, what they gave up to get Kevin Durant and Clint Capella, even though it wasn't some crazy deal when it came down to all of that, they were able to keep most of their young players. And that's been a focus of this team. They don't want to mortgage heavy parts of their future. And so now the fact that you were able to add Durant and Capella to Sengun and Amin Thompson, Jabari Smith, and all the other multitude of young players that you have down there, you know, it makes some sense. And that's not to say that the Houston Rockets may not look to make a move at the trade deadline to maybe solidify some things. That's still definitely a possibility that they can do there, but they're not going to be looking for the level of a move like a Ja Morant, right? Keep in mind, this is a player that, you know, Tari Eason has been out for a while. Dorian Finney-Smith has been out for a while, right? Like, he hasn't played at all this season, so you're still adding him back as a player. We already know what he can be like. The target date is around January for him to make his season debut. So because of all of that, like, this is a Houston Rockets team that is good. They have a great record in the Western Conference. They are looking really good as a team, and they can still get better just internally by the players that they have out. They sit right now at 3rd in the Western Conference. Now, the conversation this then leads to is that why are so many teams reportedly out on Ja Morant, right? Like, and how difficult would the Memphis Grizzlies have on moving Ja if they truly started shopping him? Now, somebody's going to bite. right? We know that the personality things and the concerns with Ja are all there. They're legitimate. But Ja's just too talented of a player that I would say not to have any type of trademark. And now injuries have been a thing. Suspensions have been a thing, right? But if the Memphis Grizzlies truly do say, hey, by any means necessary, we're going to move Ja Morant, they're going to get something back for him. And I think they're going to get a nice package and deal back for him depending on what they want. Is that the best case and the best recourse and course of action for them? I don't know. I really don't know. Like the Grizzlies are a team that's very interesting, right? Because you have a young player like Cedric Howard who's stepping up for them. Zach Edey has been playing really well for them. And of course, they have Jaren Jackson Jr., so if they did want to pivot and move away from Ja Morant, there are options that, they're not completely devoid of talent on that roster, right? But the question then becomes about it is that would they want to go into full rebuild, and how much of that would they want to stave off is going to a full rebuild? And we just don't know. But Ja is an interesting player. He's polarizing to fan bases. There are some fan bases that absolutely love Ja. There's some fan bases that would be pissed if their team were to trade for him, right? But at the end of the day, Sam Amick did point out as well that maybe we should start pumping our brakes a little bit on the Ja Morant thing, and said that that general manager Zach Kleeman has not much interest, if any, in moving Ja Morant. So, while it seems like other teams and reporters and aggregators are circling this as a storyline, as it stands right now, it doesn't seem like the Memphis Grizzlies internally are showing a lot of willingness to just trade Ja by any means necessary. That's why I said if they decide to do so, they're going to be teams that are at the table, that are willing to talk and negotiate and want Ja on their team. I just don't really get the inclination that it's something that the Grizzlies are really focused on right now. Now, that could change. This is the NBA. Anything can change at any given moment. But as things stand right now, and you're asking me right now, I think Ja ends up staying in Memphis. I think he's going to be there. Maybe they look to revisit something and decide on something long-term in the offseason. But as it stands right now, I'd be willing to bet Ja Morant is going to still be in the Memphis Grizzlies jersey at the end of the season. But I'd love to hear from you guys on how you feel on that down below. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the next topic, right? There have been a similar motive in regards to Giannis Antetokounmpo recently, right? Shams said that the writing is on the wall in regards to the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade. Jake Fischer kind of said the same thing as well in his reporting, right? And overall, we'll say this, right? And this is the quote from Jake Fischer. But I'd say overall, from my conversations with people around the league, with people around Milwaukee, with people around Antetokounmpo brothers, that the writing is on the wall. So there's a lot of, and when you start hearing the same things, you start feeling like, okay, it is what it is there, right? But then we heard from this as well that Giannis has never asked for a trade. However, outside voices continue to suggest the franchise trajectory may force the issue. One source told ESPN the same now familiar phrase, with the writing is on the wall. And here's the thing, right? We know that Kyle Kuzma came out and denied reports that Giannis had to talk to the locker room and kind of calm down some of the trade speculation and talk around him and things like that. I want to throw, this is a conspiracy theory. This is not reporting. This is me just spitballing here, right? What if all this is Giannis's ploy to put more pressure onto the Milwaukee Bucks front office to make a big move at the trade deadline to add to this team, right? Now, we know that they've exhausted a lot of their own means. They only have a certain amount of draft picks that they can move. Them waiving and stretching Dame Lillard to sign Miles Turner was a huge move in that case for them as far as financially and the obligations that came with that. But what if Giannis wants to just put a little bit more pressure? Now, I don't know if he really has to do that, so I'll fight against my own point and say, does Giannis really have to use this type of thing through the media to put pressure on there? Because if Giannis came to the front office and said, listen, if you don't make a big trade by the trade deadline, I want out of here, guess what they'll do? They're going to try to make a big trade at the trade deadline. So it's not like he has to necessarily kind of play coy with it, that I would say, but it does raise some concern, because I would say this. If it's believed that Giannis is asking for a trade, or the situation the Milwaukee Bucks is for, like, I don't see a world in which Giannis has either requested or asked for a trade and the Milwaukee Bucks look at him and say, yeah, no, we good. I just don't see them treating Giannis that way. And at the same time, I also feel like Giannis to me feels like somebody who's saying, give me a reason to stay here. I want to stay here. I don't want to leave Milwaukee. My kids grew up here. This is home for us. This is second home. I don't want to leave Milwaukee, but I will if it means that I can feel like I win. I just want to win basketball games, right? So it's an interesting duality that has to be met between the two, because if Giannis just wanted out, I feel like he would ask out, and they would acquiesce. They would let him out and find him a trade, even if it meant that he wants to go to a certain place. I just don't see them treating Giannis in a way to where they won't do that. I'm not saying they just take anything back for him, but I don't see them just looking at Giannis and saying, no, we good, sit your ass down, right? So because of those things and bringing all this together into one, I think it just comes down to this, right? Whatever happens with Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks, it's still Giannis's decision. And not to say that the Bucks don't have any type of leverage in a case like that, because guess what? It's their decision. They have the right to trade him. Giannis can't trade himself. But I just don't know. Like, this thing is all starting to feel like, it feels to me like Giannis wants an excuse to stay. And he wants to stay in Milwaukee. He just wants to make sure and have assurances that he's going to be able to compete if that is the case. Is that going to be? Is the question there. And we'll see, right? I don't know. I have my own doubts on how much Milwaukee is going to be able, and that's not because they're not going to try. I think Milwaukee's absolutely going to try to do whatever it takes to put a team out there that Giannis feels comfortable in and feels safe in saying, I'm staying in Milwaukee because of this team. I just don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know if they have the runway to get that done in a meaningful way in enough time. And I guess we shall see. But let me know what you guys think down below in regards to that. Do you get the feeling like me that Giannis wants to stay? Do you believe these trade rumors? Do you think it is only a matter of time before the Milwaukee Bucks are forced to trade Giannis? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, I want to get into this last topic. Jayson Tatum reportedly controls his own return timeline, and this comes from a number of quotes from Joe Mazzulla, the head coach of the Boston Celtics, saying this. It's all up to him. At the end of the day, his health is the most important thing. His process is the most important thing. You trust him. You trust the team that's around him. He's got a great team, and then you kind of go from there, right? Now, we know that Jayson Tatum did recently release some workout footage showing him playing one-on-one. He is back on the court. He did look like he had some mobility. That's different than NBA level of competition, but he did look like he is. Keep in mind, he tore his Achilles on May 11th, right? So, that's to be where he is right now, it shows a great level of acceleration, right? But Mazzulla goes on to say this: I care more about the fact that he's around the team. He's helping us get better. That's the most important thing. The Celtics sit right now at a 15-9 record and sit at third in the Eastern Conference, right? And the thing in the question that's always been there this offseason is that if they really do feel that Jayson Tatum is going to return this year, how active is that going to leave them at the trade deadline to try to add some things to this team, right? We've heard that they're interested in a number of players. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some of the ones that may be interested in a player like Daniel Gafford, who we've heard. Maybe even they could get in on the 80 thing with the expiring contracts that they have. I mean, they dealt with similar injury things with Kristaps, so maybe they'd be more willing. I know the injury thing and the size of the contract, like, damn, you don't want to have that size of contract on there with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, right? Like, that'd be a hell of a thing to match. But I do think this is a team that is going to be looking to make an upgrade at the big man position at the trade deadline, especially if they believe that Jayson Tatum is going to be able to make his return here by this season. The Celtics are the team's holding up their end of the bargain, right? They are staying afloat. They're at 15-9, and I tell you what, I don't know if I thought they'd be there. Now, the Indiana Pacers, the two teams in the East that are dealing with Achilles injuries, I didn't think the Pacers would be good. I did think the Boston Celtics had a good enough roster to compete for the play-in. I didn't think they'd be like this, though, right? So with that, does that make them a little bit more aggressive leading into the trade deadline to try to shore up some things with this team so that when Jayson Tatum does return, we're hitting the ground running, ready to stay on pace and maybe even, surprise some teams and be able to come out the East? Now, I think you have to temper the expectations. When a player returns back from Achilles, they usually take a little while, even when they're cleared and back on the court, to get back to looking like themselves. But with Jayson Tatum and the acceleration that he's had in his development, maybe there's something to be said that it's not going to take that long for Tatum. So, we'll see. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. Like, in regards to Jayson Tatum, if the Celtics feel confident that Jayson Tatum is going to be able to make his return this year, how aggressive should they be at the trade deadline? They have the Anthony Simons trade chip to cash in if they need to try to make some moves now. They have other things that they can do. Let me know what you guys think on that, because it does provide a really interesting set of scenarios in that Eastern Conference if Jayson Tatum is going to be making his return. But I want to hear from you guys on that one. Do you think he makes his return? But that's it for today. I appreciate y'all for tuning into another episode of NBA Central. The league is getting crazier day by day, and we're now 4 days away from the NBA trade season officially opening, as most players around the league are going to be eligible to be traded in December 15th. Some are early January as well, so that can matter there. But let me know what you guys think on that. The Rockets staying patient. The Bucks maybe keeping Giannis Antetokounmpo, and the Celtics waiting on Jayson Tatum's return. Drop your thoughts down below on how you feel about all of that. And plus, would you trade Ja Morant if you were the Memphis Grizzlies, or would you hold on to him? Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow us at NBA Central on every social media platform we're on. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBACentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything basketball related, and I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.